Are we ready?
I'm ready.
All right, it's all yours.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Now I have to introduce you, don't I?
That's okay.
That's right. So I apologize. Cyndy Porter, we're very pleased to have her back with us here at 40 Plus this year. She's an award-winning photographer, expert image and fashion consultant, personal stylist, and inspiring public speaker. Again, we'll benefit from all of those today. She started her career in sales and marketing, working her way up the ladder to divisional vice president of brand marketing in a media conglomerate before leaving to start her own business. Today, Cyndy Porter's style and photography builds on that business knowledge and experience with professional image consulting services throughout Northern Virginia and the DC area. She's a member of the Style Corps, a certified network of personal stylists and image consultants around the world, personally trained by image master Carla Mathis. Tell us more about that. Cyndy continues her training as an image consultant through affiliation with the Association of Image Consultants International. There are 3 associations for everything. I know this now.
I know.
And can help you achieve your goals through a powerful and authentic image. Please join me in welcoming Cyndy Porter.
Thank you. I think I gave him that introduction a year ago, so it was like, what is he going to say? Oh, so much changes in a year. Okay. So first of all, I'm really happy to be here. I was here a year ago, and I didn't know what to expect, and now I will say that I have about 7 women. My business focuses on women as I look around in a room full of men, but that's okay. I have lots of good stuff for you too. But I have been working with 7 women who I met here a year ago, all whom are brilliant, creative, and fully employed. So it's really an honor to be here, and I think the program that they have going on is just absolutely fabulous. So a little bit about me. For most of my life, I started my day going into my closet and looking something like this. I would put on slacks and a top and look in the mirror and not be happy. I would put on a dress and look in the mirror and not be happy. I would finally find what I was going to wear, and then it would be like, should it be these shoes? Should it be this necklace? What about my eyewear? And as I went through my morning, I would have a pile of clothes getting higher and higher on my floor, not especially tidy. Untidy probably would have been a couple of my words. No, I'm just getting better at that. And my self-esteem lower and lower. And if you think about it, well, first of all, let me ask, especially of the women in the room, how many of you experience mornings like this? Right? You don't? Oh, I love you. You should come on in.
I always know.
That's great. So, what I thought about was how often I spend my morning looking in the mirror and telling myself things I would never say to my best friend or anybody that I liked about how bad I looked. How I had stand on the scale and wish I had lost weight, and I look in the mirror and I notice everything I don't like about myself. And I do this for a good 45 minutes, not anymore, earlier in my life. And then I would be expected to go into the world. I would expect myself to go into the world, lead people, be inspiring, be positive, and be, creative and interesting and all of those things when I had just started my morning telling myself how I don't measure up. And I thought that I was alone. But what I've learned is that I am not alone, that most women look in the mirror and we see what we are not. It might be that we wish our eyes were bigger, our lips were bigger, or we were thinner, our hair was a different color. No matter what you have going on, you focus more as a woman on what you do not have versus what you do have. And a lot of this comes from gremlins you have in your head. Other people don't see that in you. You have voices. It could be the media is telling you that you don't measure up to what's on the cover of a magazine, or your image of what the perfect image is. It could be voices that you had in your childhood. I have a client who, I teach workshops all the time. I've worked with thousands of women all over the world. And it's amazing to me when I teach a workshop and I'll have one woman sitting here and she'll be experiencing something in her marriage. Maybe her husband's recently experiencing some impotency, so she doesn't feel sexy or alive because of that. This woman over here told me that her parents gave her a scale when she was 13. And even though she's a perfectly beautiful, grown-up woman, she still sees herself as that 13-year-old girl who was given a scale for her birthday. And maybe somebody over here had an abusive marriage. And maybe somebody over here had parents. I had one client who said, you know, my parents, this is very recent, she said, my dad told me I was amazing since I was very little. Everything I did was perfect. And then when I got a little bit older and everything I did wasn't perfect, he would look at me and say, how come you don't get that, right? And so she is afraid to try anything new because the voice in her head is, if it's not perfect, then I can't do it. So what I want you to think about is, do you have gremlins in your head? Are there things, because we can't go out and do our best work. We can't go out and network and meet people to shake someone else's hand with confidence if in the back of our mind we are carrying this stuff with us everywhere we go that's helping us get in the way of living our best lives. So I used to think I was alone in what I call my closet illness, this thing going into my closet. But what I learned is actually it's an epidemic. It's an actual epidemic. The Dove Foundation did a survey. You know, the people who do skincare, well, they also have an amazing foundation that focuses on the self-esteem, specifically in women and girls. And they did a survey. They went to 10 different countries, and they interviewed 10,000 women. And they asked the question, do you find yourself attractive? Are you beautiful? What do you think the results were? No. Give me a number. Like, what do you think the statistics are?
70%.
85%.
Said no.
No.
96%. 96% of all women worldwide do not believe they're beautiful, which is crazy, right? Don't you think that's crazy? 4% are willing to say, I'm enough. I look in the mirror and I believe that I am enough just the way I am. And what do you think the statistics are for the men? I'm overshadowed here with all these men in the room. But what do you think? Do you have any idea what the statistics are for men?
Probably almost symmetrical the other way.
You are absolutely right. So men, as it turns out, and I applaud you for this. This is not a criticism. I'm envious. But men are actually biologically hardwired to overestimate your attractiveness. I mean, that's awesome. Like, I wish I had that. So in this picture, right, it's the heavy man looking in the mirror and seeing himself as a thin man, whereas if you're a woman, it would be absolutely reversed. And so I do one of the reasons that I do my work focusing on women is that men, you guys carry self-confidence with you everywhere you go. You know, studies show that when you go in and you interview for a job, even if you're not qualified for the job, you will put your name in the hat, whereas a woman typically won't apply for a job until she's overqualified. So not only are you, again, I'm outnumbered here, not only are you paid more than women, you have more self-confidence in your ability than women, you also believe you're better looking. So it's just not fair.
I guess I'm more in touch with my feminine side.
Good for you! No, I mean, these are statistics, you know, but you're probably more. So here's what I think, that most women in particular weren't raised with the idea of beauty being one of the things that we consider, right? I have a lot of female clients that are like, I don't ever tell my daughter she's beautiful because I don't want her to focus on the superficial, right? I want her to grow up knowing that she's smart and creative and interesting. And what happens is we forget this whole other piece, that you are a whole person from the inside out. So everything I do in my work is your beauty from the inside out. It's not just about what brands are you wearing and what's on trend right now. It's the fact that how we show up from the inside and from the outside matters. And if we overlook this whole issue with women and girls, that being beautiful is just as important, or feeling beautiful for whatever you are is just as important as being smart, creative, and interesting, and hardworking, and all of the other things that we educate women to be. So the problem is, not only do many of us grow up not believing we're beautiful, as statistics said, but actually the reverse. So I'm going to quickly tell you the story of this little girl. I think she's kind of cute. But you know, she never thought she was. She was born severely pigeon-toed. She had to wear special braces and shoes. Kids made fun of her for the way she walked and the way she looked. She didn't have support at home, so she was alone in all of these feelings. By the time she got to the 1st grade, she was so insecure that she physically ate the buttons off her clothes, was afraid to have eye contact with the teacher and with her peers. The school psychologist, she was told, would peek in the window of the classroom. And back then, they used words like mentally retarded. So her parents would get calls. She's mentally retarded and we don't know what to do with her. She learned to self-medicate by sucking her thumb. So by the time she was a teenager, she had the worst buck teeth you can imagine. And her peers, by that point, would outwardly tell her she was ugly. So not only did she believe she was stupid, she believed she was ugly. So I'm sure you figured out that this little girl was me. And what I can tell you is that when you grow up not believing you're enough, I've learned this after 20 years of therapy, which is why I get to stand here now as another person. But what I learned was that when you don't believe in yourself, right, you go into the world looking for evidence that how you believe is true. So you don't set up personal boundaries, you let people mistreat you, you don't apply yourself, you don't try your hardest, you set yourself up for proof that you are not worthy. You don't do the opposite, actually. And so that's what happened to me, finally culminating in an abusive marriage. When I left my first marriage, my husband was actually sleeping with a gun under our bed, threatening to kill me if I left him. And you guys, many of you are old enough that you would remember the O.J. Simpson, even if you weren't living through it. Yes. I was like living this horror that I was watching O.J. Simpson, you know, in the van driving down the Blazer, driving down the highway, living with this guy threatening to kill me, thinking, you know, it happens and it's going to happen to me. To make a long story short, I was given a lifeline and I was offered an opportunity to go work for this thing called the internet in Silicon Valley. And thankfully, I had experimented with drugs and alcohol as a way to make myself feel better, but I moved in to work as my addiction of choice. And so with all of this stuff going on in my personal life, complete train wreck, right? I was a really hard worker and I did really well professionally, and I got this opportunity to go work for this thing called the internet. I left this terrible man behind, packed up my cat, I drove across the country, and I have a bit of a rags to riches story. I ended up at AOL in the middle of the internet boom, stock split 10 times, and you never would have known that I was the same person after that experience and 20 years of therapy. So I tell you this story, why? Just to let you know that a little bit about me and who I am and why I do what I do. So I always believed that I was not enough. I always looked in the mirror and did not believe I was beautiful. And so now my mission in life, I've been doing this now for 10 years as a photographer and 7 years as a certified image consultant. And my mission is to reverse the statistics. I believe that everybody, but especially every woman, deserves to look in the mirror every morning and believe that she is beautiful. And I am not a top 10 model, but I now have learned to believe in myself, and I do the same. I don't say that to just, self-acceptance. So who hasn't had the experience of what it feels like? Even you men, when you buy a new outfit, you buy new outfits, you put them on, you look in the mirror, and you feel great about yourself. Who hasn't had that experience? So everybody has had that experience. No? Yes?
Yeah.
Sort of?
Sort of.
What about the women? Have you had that experience? Okay. So you identify what it feels like to look in the mirror and feel like, you know what, I'm looking pretty good today. So don't you think on that day, you might walk into a room and stick your hand out more to introduce yourself to somebody? Maybe you're having a difficult situation with somebody, you might be a little bit braver to address that person. Maybe when you're making sales calls, or in your case, you're looking for a new job, you're gonna pick up the phone more. Little thing of looking in the mirror and feeling like, I look great today. It's just a confidence boost. That's all it is. It makes you know that you can go out there and be your best in front of the world. So what I know, I used to say what I believe, but actually what I know and what has been proven is that how you look is your most powerful communication tool. And what I find fascinating about this is I bet you that if not all of you, most of you, thought more about what you were going to say when you came to this meeting today than how you looked.
No.
No? You thought more about how you looked?
Yeah, because I read your resume. You know.
You got to pull out your best scarf.
Well, I wouldn't say best, but I dress a little more carefully. How's that?
Yeah. So here's what we know. That your first impression is 85% based on how you look. Second to that is your body language. Do you have eye contact? Do you have your head down? Do you seem confident? Do you seem cocky? Next is the tone of your voice. If you are a woman and you're very sweet, but you have a very deep tone of voice like this, don't you think that's like psychologically jarring? Like, who is that person, right? Or it could be the opposite, that you're very strong, but you have a very weak tone of voice, and so it's really hard to be kept. Don't you know those people that like their voice just really gets on your nerves, right? Or it just doesn't fit who they are? And the last and final thing involved in that first impression is what? The content of your words. Studies show it's about 4% of the overall impression. There was a study done of a Harvard professor speaking in front of a classroom with no sound. And he was up there speaking, and the students were all asked to, rate what they thought of him. And it turned out that when he then spoke, that it was like within a percentage, exactly the same. And like, you obviously didn't teach anything when you couldn't hear it. So it's pretty fascinating, don't you think? So all of that is happening. Studies have said for over the years, fewer than 7 seconds. In fewer than 7 seconds, you walk into this room, and I would say, hi, my name is Cyndy Porter. I'm an image consultant, and my mission in life is to help women feel beautiful. Before I even got that out, you already decided, is she interesting? Is she honest? Is she authentic? Is she superficial? Is this going to be interesting? Do I like her? Do I want to know her? Whether you have accessed it in your frontal cortex or whether it's way back here in your subconscious, you have those feelings. And it's why when you walk into a room like this, you decide, am I going to come up and talk to Anna? Is she my people? Or is Ken more my people? Like, you do it because you walk into a room and unconsciously you decide who you're going to talk to. Because we attract people who we believe resemble who we are and echo our values and our interests, right? And all of that is communicated in those seconds by how you look. So here's the next question. How long do you think that first impression takes? Lasts. Sorry. It takes 7 seconds or fewer. How long do you think it lasts? So I look at Anna and I say, well, she seems kind of uninterested and boring. It's not true, Anna. And I don't want to get to know her. How long do you think it's going to take for me to change my opinion on Anna if it turns out that she's actually very interesting and charismatic and lovely? How long is it going to take me to change my mind? Guesses? 2 weeks.
A long
Hours?
time.
A few minutes.
A few minutes? 6 months. 8 encounters. Like if I saw you 8 days in a row, it might not take 6 months. 8 encounters or 6 months. You know why? Because we don't want to believe we're wrong. That's why. I looked this up and I saw this statistic and I'm like, what? So I found an article written in Psychology Today, and basically the explanation is we don't want to believe we're wrong. So if I make up my mind about anybody, or you guys have made up your mind about me, maybe because I'm blathering on, you might change your opinion. But it takes us that long to rearrange our first impression. So clearly for you guys who are out networking, going to job interviews, you have to think about what it is you want to communicate. Because people are going to judge you really, really fast. And it's going to last a really long time. So make it a good one. So this is obviously an extreme example. But what I found is it's just baby tweaks, right? So let's just do this for fun. I would like for this beautiful woman in the zebra, come up here for a second. Would you please? And how about this very distinguished man in the red tie, and this beautiful woman who's confident with the red hair. Come on up here. Yeah, and Anna. So here's what I want to say. It could be extreme like this, but it could be subtle things like this. What is your name? Ileana? Ileana has a presentation. When you see her, adjectives come to mind. Like what? Put together.
Colorful.
Colorful.
Stylish.
Stylish. Creative.
Intelligent.
Whether she wants those things or not, that's what she's communicating. And in a little while, we're going to find out what she wants. Thank you. Now compare her to Anna. What do you see in Anna? Approachable, relaxed, practical, maybe efficient. Why did I say that? Her hair's back. She has more casual clothes, comfortable shoes, a very nice expression on her face. Very kind of. My guess is she's authentic. And you are probably very authentic, as am I, but we don't look as authentic as Anna, because we're a little bit more stylized, right? It's just a different first impression. If Anna were going for a leadership position, she might be better suited to be dressed like Ileana, right? But if Ileana were going for a position in middle management, she might look overdressed and not trustworthy, right? Do you see the difference? And what do we think about Jay?
Obviously, executive profession.
Yeah.
Male.
Male, confident. He's the only male up here. I'm sorry, that was an accident. And what about this beautiful zebra print? Linda.
Professional.
But does she look a little bit more exotic? Maybe a little bit more daring? She has all black on. If she didn't have that jacket, take the jacket. Can you take it off? Are you self-conscious of anything underneath it? If you look at her without the zebra, right, it's a totally different impression. And she could put on 6 gazillion different jackets and take that look in a lot of different directions. But if she shows up in that zebra, we're going to have a different impression of her, right? So thank you guys for letting me make my. So here we see an extreme first impression, right? But we do make first impressions a lot based on how we look, and it can just be subtle things like, are the shoes comfortable, right? Does she have on pantyhose? Is she wearing a dress? Did she do her hair? Is it curled, right? All of these little things tell us attention to detail, leadership, all of these things. So here's what I teach. I spend a ton of my time when I work with my clients on figuring out who you are. And it's really amazing because you guys kind of stole my thunder with these adjectives, because typically when I'm working with people, I'll say, pick some adjectives that describe who you are. And they're like, I don't know, what's important to you? I don't know, I haven't really thought about it, right? Or who are you? Well, I'm a mom, and I'm a wife, or I'm a father, and I'm a brother, and I'm a buddy, or I'm a professional, I'm a doctor, I'm a computer scientist. Those are things that you do and roles that you play. They are not who you are, right? So when we talk about who we are at the core, and I have some sheets I'm going to pass around. Ken, maybe you can help me. They're kind of a booklet, so maybe we can just have you pass them. I would like you to take a look at some of these adjectives. You can pull off one and pass it on. So if you were asked to, which I'm going to ask you in a minute, come up with 5 or fewer, here you go, 5 or fewer adjectives that describe who you are. And in this case, since it's a professional setting, let's say you were going to go out of the room and we were all going to say, don't you think Mike is blah, 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 blah. What would you want them to say? And if the adjective isn't on the sheet, you're welcome to make up your own adjective. Why are we going to do this? Because what we're talking about now is creating a personal brand. The first step in creating your personal brand. Does anybody here already feel like they have a personal brand? Does anybody know what a personal brand is? Yes. Does anybody know what a company brand is? Yes. So tell me your favorite company. Sarah.
Wired magazine.
Wired magazine. So what, I don't know Wired magazine. So tell me, I mean I've heard of it, but tell me why you like them.
The content of the articles and over time what they cover.
Okay.
Consistency.
So they're consistent,
Intelligence.
they're intelligent, probably reliable, they come out when they say they're going to come out. Maybe not.
Authoritative.
Okay. Authoritative. So authoritative, intelligent, and what was the other one?
Good track record.
Good track record. So if all of a sudden Wired magazine had some fluffy article on something that wasn't based on reality, right? If they didn't sound intelligent, if they didn't sound authoritative, then all of a sudden her opinion of that brand would go down the toilet, right? So if we think about Apple computers, something that everybody knows, they're innovative and they're not inexpensive and they're stylized, right? And they have amazing customer service. If all of a sudden they didn't have that, like if all of a sudden they came out with some gray-like looking thing that didn't look very interesting, if you went in there and there wasn't somebody with an iPad coming up to you and trying to help you, that would be inconsistent with their brand. So every company that you think about has a brand. Any company worth their salt has a brand. And they make every decision about their company, their customer service, how their look and feel, what products they take on, what employees they hire. Every company has a brand because it tells them what to do and what decisions to make. So what I believe is that you should all have your own brand. And that when you figure out what that is, then how you dress communicates that. Why? Because then you're going to attract people just like you. That when you go to a job interview, you're going to show up and they're going to see that is the person I'm seeing in front of me. And that you can do that for every occasion of your life. So people will say, well, I'm different at work than I am when I'm on a date or with my kids or when I'm doing volunteer work. Well, the truth is you are not. You are the same exact person. You are dressing for different occasions of your life. And you should carry your personal brand. If we know that 85% of your first impression has to do with how you look, that it lasts 6 months, and it happens in fewer than 7 seconds, then we want to figure out, A, who are we, and what does it look like when I show up, and dress in that way, even if you're going to the grocery store, which sometimes I don't do, but you should. So, when we come up with a personal brand, is who are you authentically? How do you want the world to see you? And then, how does the world actually see you? And when you know those 3 things are one and the same, who you are authentically, how you want the world to see you, and how the world actually sees you, then you know that you've done something really important and you have created a consistent brand. Now, when are these 2 things different? Who are you authentically, and how do you want the world to see you? Maybe if you're going through a transition. So, and that could be people in this room. Some of the people that I worked with that I met last year when I worked here were going from a transition. I used to be a doctor, and now I want to be a consultant, right? I used to be on Capitol Hill, and now I'm going to go into the arts, right? Or whatever it happens to be. You don't 100% believe you're creative, but you want to start showing up as a creative. You might not have stepped into a leadership role, but you're looking for a leadership role. So if you don't feel 100% confident that you are authentically who you are striving to become, then in that case, I say your adjectives should be who you want to become, because you're kind of faking it till you make it. You're doing all the work behind the scenes, but you're stepping into a new role. So that's what I want you to do with this sheet right now. I want you to come up with 5 or fewer adjectives that describe the person that you want to be, the person that you want other people to see. When you've done that, I'd like to have you get into groups of 3. So maybe you 3 right here. Are you going to participate? So you 3 right here. Why don't you go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. You 3. You with these 2. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. So you're going to get in groups, and you're going to look at the adjectives on the screen, and you're going to look at the adjectives on your page. You're not going to tell people what you wrote for yourself. What you're going to do is you're going to tell each other your first impression of them. So it'll be something like, Tish, I would look at Tish and say, Tish, I think you look authentic, classic, and professional. And you would write that down, because nobody's ever told you what your first impression is, and you're probably not going to get it yet. And then Ken would say his own impression, and then Anna would give her first impression. And what you would look at is, are people saying the same things to me, right? Or not? Is it an outlier, or is everybody saying, I look classic? Then maybe I do. Do I want to look classic? Is that on my list, right? So the thing is that you go into the world every day and you don't, I mean, I'm assuming that the groups of 3 are strangers. If you're not strangers, mix it up a little bit. Because what we want to do is like, look at Ken from head, this gives you an excuse to look at somebody from head to toe and say, here's what I see. And then we'll come back as a group and I'd like to hear any feedback that you want to share. So here's what you're doing. You're figuring out what you want, and then you're getting some feedback from a stranger really quickly. And here's what I say. So I do this all the time, and I recommend honesty and kindness. If you feel like you could say something to somebody that would help them be better in life, and they could go to their best friend and say, you're beautiful and lovely and charismatic and amazing, right? And you're not going to learn anything from that. So if you see something that might be a little bit in somebody's way, in a kind way, point it out, because we're here to help each other learn and grow and be better and thrive. So go into your group. Actually, had the head down and I was like, oh, I'm well, I know it'd be great to have first impression.
Good for a Monday morning.
I would describe you
Do you want
strong, confident, athletic.
put together?
Engaging, very engaging conversations. Very focused and with this other conversation.
You strike me as someone who is organized, serious, thoughtful.
You want to write this down, but
I wish you would have one page because there was 3 books and I went
Connecting.
War was the other one.
Yeah, there is a difference between social and friendly.
It's the serious edge to you that I see, at least in my and I think of friendly as well. Happy. I think those are you said something about like studious. I think that's sort of studious.
One smart protection, the other one
I spent a lot of time on government agencies, so I'm teaching, some teaching, so it's LinkedIn, I'm so grabbing. So that was really good. It was I have a page, but I never use it. But after that session, I've spent every day getting my own
And the
That's what's on there. And so it's really, that was that one side was so helpful.
Okay. Congratulations.
I'm a quick button, recruiters,
someone's wearing a suit that's like a size big, and they look like they put on
and I
a
said, well, how's your LinkedIn experience? He said, oh,
or
I
they
got
don't
this
like fit in
random
for a suit.
email from a
Or they don't
recruiter
actually know
from
what
the
size
Met
they are.
Like,
And
oh, we like your background. Do you want to
they
send
don't have
to
the
development?
confidence to say, or they make put on a big suit. So that was something that we just talked about, and it's fascinating. She showed pictures
Are you
of
using it? Are you using
her
it?
colleague
Yeah,
out with the same accent, all the same just different sizes and fits. And yeah, it was that 85% reaction of individual that gave that.
I never really thought about that. Being a serious
And using
work background.
that's
I work at National Geographic. Oh, I'm aware that I was never involved in any of that.
we weren't scaring.
Check out that.
So that's
Yeah, I've been trying to like polish it down. I don't know what I was going to
I Googled it. I would like that specific possible writing summary. There are a couple of great, very short, there's one that says, okay, the summary, no more than 2,000 I ran my summary by a couple of people. One thing about it, I went to multiple versions. So there's one that's just like a chronological, then there's one that's function, then there's one that tells a story. And my friend goes, skip one, 9 to 3, so and I can tweak it. Because they're saying when a recruiter looks at it, 7 seconds, right? So they see what then they look at the website where it goes, the first phrase or two, summary, so then they open the sentence, and then they go like the summary, then they go into it was a struggle.
Just like how you did with
a lot of hours. So now it's kind of exciting because once we have it, I haven't used it before, so I think there's some idea with it. I have a foot here, a foot or even though I know a lot of times I have something like I should have come up with this thing for it's funny to say that. It's a very difficult place I started to post like all through 16 and I thought, oh, it's just a week. And we came in, hiring freeze for a year, contractors, help staff, close offices. And so the opposite I was like was reorganize and close, like basically downward. So, but no, that's exactly what I
one of the things that I don't feel doesn't happen. I was a researcher. I actually managed a team doesn't really exist anywhere else.
Whatever you're thinking about.
Okay, so first thing I thought was I am
pros and cons.
So for research, conventional research service, we have a research background, plus you also have, whatever your content was. And then there's a new company, well, it's an open company, but it's started because I saw the paper, Yelp is moving, it's going to TTC for cinema and workshop, and they're hiring 500 people. And under the agreement with district government, half of those people have to be
You guys should be finishing up. If you're not finishing up your
so
third
Yelp's coming in,
person.
and it's going to be located right across the arena on Southern Beach.
Y'all done?
And they're renovating the building.
Like she's over here, like taking over. You done? All right.
Yeah, Yelp. And so whatever Yelp does, right? So you have it online reviews. So you're going to have people doing web work, handling
picked up on some
people's reviews of different products.
Really?
I learned something.
And that is you.
I do not.
I got more to say.
Okay.
Never know. Don't know the scenes.
Okay.
We definitely like our interns who have a lot of education in back. I think that
Looks like lots of great connections happen. I can't get you to stop. Who got exactly what they wanted? What they had on their sheet and what people told them was one and the same. Anybody? Close?
Yeah, close.
Yours were close? What were yours?
Oh, okay.
Come on up. Let's get Fred up here.
All right.
Let's change your mind. Pretty much.
What did people say about you, Fred?
Well, they said was, well, I was informed that I was authentic, studious, engaged, smart, friendly, compassionate. And that's overlaps with what I have on my sheet. I selected authentic, confident, creative, friendly, and smart.
So what do you guys think?
Yeah.
So what makes him look smart?
His eyeglasses.
Yeah.
And the little tie.
You always wear glasses? Yeah. And the tie.
Tie sweater combination.
And is that what makes him creative? Is the tie sweater combination?
No.
What makes him creative?
Smile.
Aha, that doesn't count.
The smile.
So he probably doesn't look creative, I would say. So if you wanted, do you want to look creative? Did I hear you were jazz?
Well, no, I'm not like that.
Oh, I thought I heard jazz.
Friendly smile.
Introduce yourself, what did you say?
Oh, I was saying that, yeah, I'm in GIS.
GIS. I heard jazz. Oh, we all heard jazz. Isn't that funny? Yeah, it does. You're and I thought you were jazz performer. And I'm like, okay, what are we going to do with this? So, the only thing I would say is if creative is one of your words, I would consider maybe you could have a look like this, but maybe have some little bit more creative, edgy glasses that just say, huh, there's a little bit more, because he could be an accountant, right? Looking like this.
You need a
He could be a software engineer,
engineer.
but you don't see him as a creative off the top. So, but you got creative, and that must be the words you're using. So people know you. They got to that that 7%, but a lot of people won't.
Okay.
So good, thanks for coming up.
Good job. Yeah.
So who was surprised by the words that they got? Anybody was like, oh man, that is not what I was going for at all. Anybody want to share? You look like you want to say something. No?
I always want to say something. I've learned to climb down on that. It's still coming through.
I need someone to share. Who's going to share?
That's such a redneck.
Okay, come on up. Thank you. Oh, she's interesting looking. I love this. Wow! This is awesome.
Hello.
What's your name?
Oh, yeah. It's Malaya.
Malaya.
Yes.
What do you guys say about Malaya?
The exotic.
Everything.
Very exotic, creative,
Strong.
Artistic.
artistic,
Alive.
Passionate.
Self-confident.
authentic,
She's alive.
alive,
Fresh.
confident. But I bet you wouldn't say serious.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I was.
Yes.
Gravitas going on.
Does
That's what
she?
makes the series thing.
Okay,
Confidence in who she is.
okay,
That's serious.
okay. But if she told me she were an accountant, right? Or if her values were,
Demure. That's absolutely, she wants to be demure.
she wants to be demure.
Yeah.
Right, so you wouldn't hear demure. You might not hear lovely, right? Lovely is more, this lovely young lady back here with the flower, right? Lovely, you think, or right behind you with the flowers. You come up here, both of you. This is lovely. This is lovely,
I wouldn't want to.
feminine. No, this is more edgy.
I don't want to count
This is more
what I
edgy.
can't do. I want
She
to
might be lovely, but
do
she's
whatever
not, she
wants.
does not,
Do
even though
whatever
she's
I
looking
want.
at me right now, does not say lovely. It says edgy.
Yeah, edgy.
It says edgy. And if she wanted to be lovely, how would she do that? Well, I mean, her earrings, she's got huge earrings, right? These are oversized earrings for her. She's got all this pattern going. I mean, it's edgy. And then she's, look at her shoes. Like, who would put shoes like that?
It's gonna snow. They say today at 3 o'clock.
All right,
So you touch prepared too.
she's prepared. So what are your words?
Actually, mine was actually pretty accurate. And my name, Malaya, I had to share earlier, actually means full of passion and energy.
Oh, I love that.
And so I basically had, I had beauty, beautiful. I do like to present beauty. Creative, I am an artist. And professional, but we didn't have eclectic on here, but something that.
Yeah, sure.
That's good.
Sure.
But warm and confident.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much.
And we had a good group. Our group was good too. We were like real active.
I did.
Yeah. Thank you. So, the point is that you want to really be intentional, right? So the thing I want to leave you with today, if you don't learn anything else, is that your appearance communicates. The two biggest categories that I deal with, and looking around this room, I think it's more one side than the other. I mean, I have the full spectrum, but two things that come up quite often. One is young people who are just entering their careers, who are afraid they're not going to be taken seriously. So in addition to who they are as a person, they need to make sure they're showing up in a way that makes them look like they're being taken seriously, right? If they still have the same hair that they had in college, right? If they're just kind of, wearing casual clothes, if they're maybe a little bit, in a women's case, they're a little bit too relaxed or revealing, they're not going to be taken as seriously. On the other hand, yes.
I'll share an example of what you're saying. I remember sitting in my office a couple of months ago, and some of the ladies would walk past me. I said, "Oh my God, it looks like you're going to the grocery store."
Right.
You're going to get groceries. That's what you would put on a Saturday.
Yoga
to
pants
go run errands, but yet that's your. And they can't figure out why they're not getting the promotions.
Right.
And they're like, I'm not, and I was like, well, part of it's the way you're.
Yeah, because unconsciously, even if they have the most brilliant thing to bring to the table,
Yeah.
you're not able to take it in.
Right.
And on the other end, we have people like me who are of a certain age, where we need to make sure that if we are working with younger people in particular, or looking for a job, not that we don't look our age, but that we look current and relevant. So if you are in a field that needs to be on the top of technology, like if you're in technology, or if you're in medicine, or if you're in any field actually, if you're in, like, you don't want people to have a unconscious worry that what you're going to bring to the table was what happened 20 years ago, not today. So there are ways that you want to look age appropriate, but to make sure that you are looking current and relevant, and not, so it's like just making sure you don't look dated. And so those are some things I just want to leave you with as it comes to your personal brand. So when I work with my clients, we spend a ton of time on this concept. We're just kind of touching the iceberg. The next thing that you want to do is, after you can really articulate who you are, know what that looks like, right? So it could be, well, I want to be authentic and efficient and lovely and approachable. What in the world does that look like? And why, when I said Malaya, sorry. When I said she didn't look lovely, but she looked edgy, some of you were like, huh? Right? Like, she does. She looks edgy, and I'm confident in that, right? And if she does, if she came up and she said, I'm demure and I'm lovely and I'm an introvert and I'm in a holistic field and I want to make everybody feel happy all day, I'd say you are wearing the wrong outfit. We need to talk, right? But that's not what she said. Yes.
What about classic? How does that play in, especially if you are interviewing with younger generation versus looking dated?
Right. So I see classic to elegant, sophisticated on a spectrum. So leaders want to show up a little bit more elegant, sophisticated. You want to look a little bit more polished. You want to look a little bit more designer-ish. You want to look a little bit more... Classic is more middle management, support roles, and as long as you are not dated, right? If you're wearing bell bottoms when, crop pants are in style, or you're wearing, frumpy tennis shoes instead of a pump, like, there's ways to do that. And I'm not going to say this to not be popular, but I do think when you let your hair go gray, it does age you. So just the matter of putting just a nice wash on your hair. Some people look amazing in gray hair, and some people like me do not. And so if you saw me right now with gray hair, which I mostly have, I would not look as current and relevant as I do. And I wish it weren't the case. I am not like an advocate for cosmetic surgery or doing fake stuff, but I do think there are little things that we can do to present it as our best selves, and that's one thing as we age that women don't want to hear, but that I believe in. And haircuts are huge. Like, making sure you have a style is really important. So I'll leave you with that. So the next thing, somebody had a question? Yes.
So I have a lot of friends who are interviewing at startups.
Yes.
And they're going to the interview all buttoned up, but when they get there, everyone's wearing jeans and polos. And so when you're interviewing at a startup or a place that's the culture is really dressed down, how do you dress for that?
Yeah, so I think obviously that I'm sure they talk in here about doing research before you go in, and you're so lucky in today's day and age. You can go to their LinkedIn pages and their website and see how they dress. And so I would just go one step up. So I would probably recommend business casual in that situation, because you want to look like you fit in, right? But you don't want to be too casual that you're like taking advantage, or that they don't think you're being serious. Yes.
Maybe a sentence or two about the difference between wearing a suit and being a suit.
Yeah, that goes beyond first impressions, right? So, I mean,
because I feel like I'm comfortable wearing a business suit. Like, I don't want to be a suit.
Well, so
I don't want to look like of he's going to do everything he's told, but nothing more. And you know.
So this is really helpful, because what that says is that that is your personal brand. And so what I believe in, here's what I honestly believe, and it's a little bit of a luxury for me to stand up here and say, because I'm not looking for a job. But if you can get really clear on who you are and show up like that you are going to, instead of trying to pretend you are something else, you are going to find a better match with your employer and with the people in your life. So if you really are not a suit and you're not comfortable in a suit, then I would say, you know, try to find a place to live your life where you don't have to wear a suit, so that you can authentically show up for who you are. Now, if you always want to be in yoga pants and tennis shoes, you're going to have to either work for yourself or, you know, but when it comes to a sports jacket and a nice shirt, like there's plenty of environments that relaxed fit still brings brilliant people together. And that might be, I never learned this when I went to college, like the culture of the company that you work with is so much more important than anything else. Because if you got to go be all day with these people, you know, you got to fit in and like them. And I think that showing up for who you are authentically really helps make sure that there's a simpatico between you and the people you're interfacing with, whether it's at work or dating or your next best friend. Yes?
I wanted to ask about hair, because like I just checked with my camera, what is going on now is fairly representative, and like I can't control my hair.
Okay.
It like doesn't do anything, like, and I could use gel, but that is very authentically someone else. And, I could cut it all off. That's always an option for guys, but I don't want to.
So
like,
what are your words?
My words, like, I mean, some words I got are words I like, the things that, what I have, like, educated, engaged, sensitive. I love that, like, and it's very, very close to what I'm, like, going for.
Okay.
And so I was wondering, but, like, at the same time, like, going into the development world, like, I'm going to go to a job fair this week in the development world, which is very DC kind of formal, and that's one place where I always wonder, like, if I'm hitting what they're looking for.
Well, so if you are sure that that's the environment for you, then I like your hair. Personally, I like it. I feel like it makes you look a little artsy, approachable, maybe sensitive, and that's a great. You know, if you're in a sales field or if you're in any kind of field where you need people to like you, being too buttoned up can make you intimidating. And so I think your glasses are a little fun, and your hair is a little fun, and besides that, you're pretty buttoned up. So if that's not who you are, then you probably should see a hairstylist and just get it chopped, you know, so that you fit into a little more, like if you were going to one of the white glove accounting or law firms, you know, where you had to fit in, you probably shouldn't. But if you're in a little bit more modern, edgy environment, you look amazing. So, yeah, that's what I would say. Yes?
Where do you get ideas for clothing for the older generation? Because I can look at Vogue, and they're all 20-somethings, and you know, that would be. What I find interesting is that when I got out of college, they always said, "Oh, your looks don't matter; it's all your brains," and that was fed to young women like that.
Yeah.
And now
it was a lie.
It was a lie. Okay, well, that's fine. But now that I'm looking at it, I see the ads and stuff. I'm like,
But you don't have to look like you just walked off Vogue either. You just need to look polished and put together. And so, you know, I would say of the thousands of women I work with, none of them pick words trendy. Like, none of them. There probably are trendy people out there, but they're not my clients. And so what we do is we help you figure out who you are authentically, and then the next step, which is the perfect lead-in, is how do you dress your body. And I do this specifically for women, but it does apply to men. So, as Ken said, I started this particular career 10 years ago as a portrait photographer. And so what I learned was, you know, since I had this terrible childhood and I didn't believe in myself and I didn't believe I was attractive, when I started down this road of photography, and then one day I was introduced to this image thing, and I'm like, oh my God, I am perfect for this because I can use these principles to help everybody else, like, get it. And so it's a combination of this branding, which is what I did in the corporate world for, you know, companies and products, and now I'm going to do it for the person, right? And if I combine that with the 7 elements of art that are already used and have been used, the same, if you could just Google 7 elements of art, it's a thing, right? And so every piece of art that we want to look beautiful, whether it's a sculpture or a painting or a photograph, right? We use these 7 elements. And if you think about it, each and every one of you, both men and women, are a 3-dimensional canvas, right? If you look around, you're different sizes, you're different shapes, you have different textures, you have different coloring, and so you can use these same 7 elements. And so that's what I do next, is I teach my clients how to use proportion. So it was Leonardo da Vinci who discovered that our bodies are proportionate to our heads if we are 8 head lengths. So have you ever seen those drawings where they take an oval and they go down 7 more times? That's so an artist knows where the arm should come out, where the waist is, and where the legs are. So that all applies to us. It applies to a men's jacket. If your upper body is longer than your lower body, maybe you want to have a shorter jacket so that it makes things a little bit even and makes your legs look longer. If you are a larger scale, you want a larger tie and larger cuffs, right? If you are a thin man, you want a thinner tie with thinner cuffs so that the scale and the proportion all looks good on you. Colors, whether you're a man or a woman, what colors are in you, your hair, your skin, your eyes, those colors are either going to fight against you or they're going to make you look more alive and more lovely. That is something you can do to look younger too, putting soft and lovely colors next to your face. So you have black on. It's not my favorite for most women of a certain age because it brings attention to other things that are black. So if you have black hair, wearing black clothes are okay, right? This is still a little severe, but it's okay. But if you have black nowhere else, especially if you have blonde hair and you put black here, right? Your eye unconsciously is looking for black somewhere else. If we see a pattern or a color, we unconsciously are seeking to see it somewhere else. And where you see it on me, unfortunately, are the bags under my eyes and the crevices in my wrinkles, right? So I try not to wear, I have a little bit of black on here, but I put it next to other colors, right? That make me look better. But, you know, navy blue or your scarf would even be a better color, right? And if you wear black, make sure you're not wearing it up to your neckline. Make sure you're showing enough skin so that it's not just like this walking head of black. So color is a really important one. And then shape, right? So I'm sure all the women in the room have heard of this concept of you're a apple or a pear or a banana, right? It's like I recently published a book, and in one of the chapters is you are not a fruit. But as an artist, knowing what shape you are is helpful because if you know you are a triangle, for example, I have a hint on that. If you know you are a triangle, the idea is to create proportionality by reducing what's going on down here and increasing what's going on up here, right? So these shapes are women's shapes, but all of them apply except for the hourglass. No man, so every woman wants to be an hourglass, no man wants to be an hourglass, right? But men are often inverted triangles. You know, I have seen men who are heavier on the bottom and slighter on top. So knowing what your shape is, knowing what your proportions are, knowing what your colors are, these are all principles that apply to both men and women. And it's what I do with my clients after we've figured out the personal brand. So we figure out the brand, we figure out how to dress the brand, we figure out what is unique about you. So so that would be your question to how do you dress? You said your aging body. I would just say, how do you dress who you are authentically in your body, your proportions, your scale, and all of those things. And it's all super easy to learn, and I love to teach it, and that's what I do. So color we talked about. I don't do this like seasons. Are you a fall, spring? You know, that whole thing that came out. There's some relevance to it, but it's really kind of dumbed down. As an artist, I use the color wheel. And hold on just a second. And what we know about the color wheel applies to you, right? So if you have a color in your skin, hair, or eyes, you know that if you wear that color, you have blue eyes.
I have hazel eyes.
What about him? You have blue eyes?
Yes.
You have a blue sweater on? From here, I can see that you have blue eyes. what did you say you have?
Hazel.
Hazel eyes, and you have on kind of a greenish shirt, and it brings attention to your eyes. So if you have a coloring, especially in your eyes, because we always want people to look at our eyes, you can wear that well. You can go adjacent to it on the color wheel. And if you really want your blue eyes to pop, if you went across the color wheel and wore like a coral or like a light brown or something like that, that would help make your eyes pop. So this is just a really quick overview of how we use all of the art principles to make you look amazing every day.
Statistically, a lot of us have got to have brown eyes.
A lot of people have blue eyes too.
Okay, but like brown eyes, what do you think?
Okay, so brown eyes, do you want to know on the color wheel? So brown eyes, if you just keep coming off here, off this orange and getting darker, 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 you end up at brown. So believe it or not, depending on your skin color, kind of corals look good with brown, and then if you go across the color wheel, you end up in the green zone. And navy blue, those colors look really great with brown eyes. But brown is a warm color. Instead of wearing, maybe wear chocolate instead of black. Bring attention to your brown eyes. Yes?
I'm a person who wants to be in the professional, either a legal environment or public service. But I wear black because right now I'm short on funds and not shopping. But I've asked for assistance in my clothing at Arlington Employment Center. They have a fund.
Okay.
The black, I don't know why, but black, I'm comfortable with it. Okay, and I want to come off as professional. Whoever I meet,
right.
I want to come off as being professional. The reason I wear the flower is because that gives me some color. It shows that I want to be stylish. I'm going to a corporate Wayfair this week. This is the outfit that I'm going to wear.
It's fine. So here's what I'm going to say. And when I teach my clients, I say the same thing. There's good, better, and best. So you don't want to be bad, right? But there's good, better, and best. In an ideal world, if you had on like the color that you're holding right there, that kind of camel color, if you had that on, that you would just look really lovely and approachable. It would go nicely with your hair.
When I had this coat on, I get lots of praise on it.
Yeah. But you look, everything that you want to accomplish, you look right now. And when you have that great job and you can invest in some clothes, maybe look for some navy blues and some chocolates and some
the navy blues,
yep.
A light blue, any of the blues are really a good color.
I can see that.
Green.
Because you kind of have a tint of kind of, you know, like you have like a caramel color in your hair and then blue eyes. So you would really look great in those
My
colors.
hair, my eyes are brown, and I have, I don't have white hair, but I do have some gray, and I don't mind it that some of it shows, but I color my hair because it does look better, and it forms better.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So I'm starting to run out of my time. I can stay for a few minutes and answer any questions afterwards, but I need to just move on. Sorry about that. So I've made this point. This is kind of what I do. I see myself as somebody who takes all the puzzle pieces of your life and puts them all together. And it's been really a pleasure to talk to all of you today. I know that I do focus my business on women. If any of the men have questions, if you go to my website, there is a 30-minute free consultation. I would be happy to talk to you about anything pro bono, just to help you move on. For the women in the group, I would love an opportunity to teach you more. Real quickly, I want to show you a transformation story of my client Shelley, who I met 3 years ago, and she looked like this when I first met her, and she looks like this now. Wow. Isn't that amazing? And the real thing that's important is that she did nothing, and if you look at her, she didn't even change her hair and makeup. It's just the clothes that she's wearing. And she tripled her sales in her business. She owns her own business. She gained confidence she didn't know that she was having, that she knew she was missing. Her relationship with her husband and her kids all improved, and she did nothing but change the way she shows up physically. It's pretty amazing. So for the women in the room, I would love for you to attend my introductory workshop. I'm going to hand out a document on that right now. And this is a comments form, and you can give me feedback. This workshop is normally $95, but if you sign up today, I'm going to give you a $50 gift certificate, so it's only $45. The other opportunity that I have is I'm doing an online 10-week program at a really great value. It's called Ethical Ensembles, and it teaches you how to get your closet ready for spring, thinking about where your clothes come from and how they're sourced and what they're made of. And I don't have time to tell you all of that, but you can go to my website and learn about it. And I lost the clicker. That's it. So at the end of the day, for all of you, my wish is that what you take away from today is that how you show up matters. What you say and who you are is what it's all about, and all we want to do is create an image that reflects who you are on the inside, so you're strong and powerful on the outside. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cyndy, thank you so much once again for another terrific and insightful presentation. Talk about things that are relevant for all of us, men and women. So please accept this little memento. We keep 40 plus in mind each morning as you're having some coffee. We'd love to have you back.
Thank you very much.
So one more time, for those who are